and you ask them to refer you to a clinic to do a blood test or just to do a regular checkup, they're most likely not gonna do that.
Ooh, but that's not good. That's not good. And because I want to comment on an earlier comment about that you don't get blood tests, etc. If you go to your doctor and you ask, and I want to know how I feel, I want to have a general checkup with blood tests, with condition, with my cholesterol, and with the sugar, and most of the time they will do this because it's in the benefit of the patient. Hi, I'm Joanne, and I'm a typical Dutchman, and I'm reacting to all things related about the differences between America and Europe, culture, cost, or extreme contrast. And today I want to react to this video that I saw. It's about Xenia Luna, and she has only 2 subscribers. Weird. But she's talking about leaving the Netherlands after 10 years. So, I'm curious. I already subscribed and liked because I support my fellow YouTubers. So, let's see what she has to say and why she's leaving the Netherlands.
When I was a teenager, I moved to the Netherlands to get my bachelor's degree. I remember the last...
She is an expat student coming over to teach, not to teach, to be taught. She's a student, yes?
Last year of my high school, my parents kept asking me, what do you want to be? What do you want to become? I had no answer. At the time, I definitely knew that I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to learn more about other cultures, improve my English, and experience...
Instantly, I'm not English, I'm a Dutchman, but I hear that she is not an American too. So why is she leaving and where is she coming from?
Life outside my home country. Right after high school, I moved to the Netherlands and ended up staying there for the next 10 years. Even though within the first few months, when I just arrived in the Netherlands, I kind of realized that this country is not for me. I decided to stick it out. I finished university.
But you stick it out for another 10 years, so there were some aspects that you liked.
Got my degree, then got a job, then got another job, and then another job, and then another job, and also decided to get Dutch citizenship. Looking back, I have some regrets about not being able to leave earlier. However, I try not to blame myself too much for it. I probably just wasn't ready to leave at that time. A few months ago, I finally found courage to move away, and I'm not sure if I'll ever go back, and there are a few good reasons.
Do whatever make you feel good. It's the one thing if you don't like it here, go. If you want to. If you want to stay, stay. If you want to leave, leave. But do whatever you like. You're young, so make the most of your life by doing what you like, not by doing what you don't like.
Reasons for that. Now everybody of course knows Amsterdam is the capital of the Netherlands, but it's not the only place I've lived in. I've spent 3.5 years in Leeuwarden, in the north of the Netherlands.
Friesland, Leeuwarden. The capital of Friesland.
I've also spent 2 years, almost 2 years in the Bild. I've lived in Utrecht for about a year, and then I moved to Amsterdam and I've stayed there for
She traveled around
4 years. The Netherlands is an undeniably beautiful country with its very unique architecture and charm, a democratic society, and a freedom that I truly appreciate.
The Rainbow Heart there, yeah.
A democratic society and a freedom that I truly appreciate. However, there are a couple of things that really got under my skin, and I would like to share those with you today. And I'm gonna start with the first and the most important reason for me.
Yeah, I'm curious, why did she leave? What's not to like about the Netherlands. It's not that I love the Netherlands, but I want to know what didn't she like about the Netherlands?
And it's weather, radiation. I need the sun every single day. I never get tired of it. I can't survive without it, like a lot of people can't survive without.
I don't know. She didn't say where she came from, so maybe in the video description I can find out where she came from. No. But if she likes the sun, maybe she came from, let's say, Spain or Italy, in those regions where there is a daily sun, and of course, in the Netherlands, with our kind of weather, sun is most of the time not there. From, let's say, May to, if you're lucky, the end of October, there is sun. But the rest of the year, there is not only not rain every day, but there is no sun. It's cloudy and sometimes raining and snowing. And so, yeah.
Without it. Unfortunately, in the Netherlands, you won't see much of it from October up till April, May next year.
Yes.
It's brutal. Winters are dark, cold, windy, just nasty. They're always wet and nasty. Summers can be nice, but in my 10 years living there, I only recall August and September being warm months. June and July might have a week or two of nice weather, really warm weather, but even then you might need to wear long sleeves, like jeans with a long sleeve. Now my experience also might be different from others because I tend to feel cold easily. So around 30 degrees, 86 Fahrenheit will be very comfortable for me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 30 degrees Celsius. Yeah, okay. If that is comfortable to her, that's hot to us. If we go to 30 degrees, that's a hot day. It's a heat stroke if it's several days of 30 degrees. So I suspect that she is from Spain, Lower Spain, Italy, in that region, because when I went down to Valencia last year, it was in April, and we walked around in t-shirts and shorts because it was 22, 23 degrees, while the rest of the Spaniards were wearing long sleeves and were having jackets on. So we had, whoa, nice.
And unfortunately, there are not a lot of warm days like that in the Netherlands, so I would constantly feel cold.
Yeah, I get it.
And these constant gray skies were really affecting my mood, and I would constantly feel depressed and sad, and it's just not fun to live in a country where you always see gray skies. And you know, when the weather is like that, you really don't want to be outside. So instead of going for a walk, for example, and like enjoying the nature, enjoying the sun, or like, we're not even talking about the sun. You can go for a walk when it's cloudy. The problem is that in the Netherlands it's very windy. So I remember I had so many days when I love jogging and I would go for a morning jog. However, I would not be able to run. I mean, don't get me wrong, of course you're able to run, but the wind is so strong that it's making it so difficult for you to run and really enjoy the jog.
Yeah, either because it's cutting off your breath, your breathing cycle, or yeah.
Which is, it's insane. It just ruins the mood and motivation. So as I said, because the weather is like that, you constantly need to come up with ideas how to meet with your friends. So I, for example, always had dinners with my friends, which is very nice. Don't get me wrong. It's very nice to.
What is this kind of a pot? Hot pot night. It's. Wait a minute. Yeah, it could. If these are these dishes, this she came from another country, except for Spain or Italy, or even more down, like maybe Romania, Bulgaria, that region. I don't recognize these dishes.
Invite friends to your house and, you know, have like a cozy, nice dinner together, cook together. but eventually you'll get bored from doing this at home. You need like going to restaurants and doing indoor activities.
Yeah, but going to a restaurant is, especially when you're a student, not that cheap to do every time. So, yeah.
Were the things that I was doing in the Netherlands most of the time, because it would just be very difficult to be outside. I talked about the weather, but I also wanted to bring up nature to this point as well, because I'm a nature lover, and it's not that there is no nature in the Netherlands. This would be a lie. There are beautiful forests there, and there are beaches there and dunes. The country is, however, very overpopulated, so no matter where you go, you're not gonna get a feeling that you're alone. You'll always see people everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, she's right. We're not overpopulated, but yeah, we are a small country with a lot of people, and we have large nature areas with trees and this beach. But because there are so many people, there are always people in those areas, especially on sunny days, etc. While I did cycle around the Netherlands, most of the time I was alone, but in the more populated areas, then you will never be alone if that is the goal you want to be.
Also, there are no mountains in the Netherlands. It's a very flat country.
Yeah, she lived way up there in the Bild, in the Leeuwarden. She did not come to the south, but yeah, there are no mountains in the Netherlands. No, there aren't.
There are no dense forests. As I said, you'll always bump into people no matter where you are. And there are, of course, beaches in the Netherlands. However, because of the weather, it rarely gets really warm, so that the water is warm enough for you to swim. I did swim once. It was cold. It was
Yeah.
the end of August, and it was a
At the end of August, yeah.
very, very warm day. That's the reason why I decided to try it, and it was extremely cold for me. Now I'm gonna move on to my next topic, which is healthcare. I did hear some Americans say how wonderful Dutch medical healthcare is. However, coming from Eastern Europe, I do have mixed feelings. Now,
Eastern Europe. Yeah, okay. We're getting there where she's coming from. Eastern Europe, just like I said, will be Romania, Bulgaria, Czechia. Yeah, those regions.
I was born and raised in Belarus, and like
Belarus. Thank you, my dear. Oh, she's from Belarus. She is from Belarus. And there in Belarus, I've never been in Belarus, but according, yeah, it's the lower part now. From Poland to Belarus, it's in the same region as in Germany on that line. So, yeah, then she has to be in one of the warmer parts of Belarus. And yeah, Belarus has a lot of mountains and it's not overpopulated, etc. Yeah.
regular checkups are a norm, like doing your blood test once per year, or visiting a gynecologist every 6 months, or at least every year. In the Netherlands, this is not the case. There are no checkups, which drives me crazy, to be honest. And when you visit your GP, your general practitioner, your doctor, and you ask them to refer you to a clinic to do a blood test or just to do a regular checkup, they're most likely not gonna do that.
Ooh, but that's not good. That's not good. And because I want to comment on an earlier comment about that you don't get blood tests, etc. If you go to your doctor and you ask, and I want to know how I feel, I want to have a general checkup with blood tests, with condition, with my cholesterol, and with the sugar, and most of the time they will do this because it's in the benefit of the patient. So strange that her doctor did not do this.
You need to give them some kind of proof that you need this medical checkup, and most of the time this proof needs to be something very, very serious. There was a time when I needed to check bilirubin in my blood. Now, I have a liver dysfunction condition, and I asked my GP, my doctor, to please let me do the blood test, let me check bilirubin in my blood because I need to test it on a regular basis.
Yeah. So he would need to do this, especially when it's a liver disease. It's chronic. So then you had a wrong doctor, my dear. Then you had to find another physician because this is not normal. You're right. You should be upset if a doctor does not send you, especially with a disease like this, to a specialist to do some, not a specialist, but to the hospital to get your blood tested, etc., etc.
She didn't let me do that. She needed some kind of proof, and I remember I sent her my blood test, which I did a couple of months ago, but it still wasn't enough. I'm not sure what kind of proof you need to bring them just so that they can let you do the blood test.
None. No, none, nothing. If they don't do it, go to the next one. Ask for a second opinion, but leave and go to another doctor because you have an illness and a chronic illness. You'll have a liver disease. So that's reason enough to give you, when you want to, when it needed to give a blood test or get a blood test.
Or something like that. I know that some...
And it's inside the healthcare. So that does not cost you or the doctor anything. It's for free. So
people have different experience with doctors in the Netherlands. However, I've lived in different cities, and I think there was only once when the doctor allowed me to do a blood test, which was fantastic, but most of the time it was a no.
Wow. In the Bild, in Utrecht, in Leeuwarden. Leeuwarden would be the one to say, okay, that's not a problem. Let's do a blood test. The Bild is in Randstad, Utrecht, and Amsterdam, yeah, could be.
Usually when you go to a doctor and you tell them about your symptoms, they will give you paracetamol, which is like an ibuprofen, a painkiller, and they will ask you to drink more water and to not stress. And it kind of became a meme among expats in the Netherlands, but it's not really funny if you think about it.
No, you're right. But in defense, because I have the same experience, it's when I call the doctor to make an appointment, the assistant tells me, take a paracetamol, ibuprofen, and drink some water, and it will be okay. And at that point, I tell to the assistant, are you a doctor? And then she said, no, because I know I'm teaching. It's the level that the girls that I teach to. So I thought to, yeah. Then they will refer you to a doctor, and the doctor will say, okay, come in and we do a physical test, etc., etc., etc. But there are assistants who say, take a paracetamol and drink some water, and if it's not over, be back in 2 days or 3 days. That cost my mom her life. So if an assistant say, take a paracetamol, then you go. You say, no, make an appointment. You are not a doctor. You did not study for 6 years to determine on the few words that I say that I should take a paracetamol and wait a couple of days. No.
Health insurance is mandatory for every resident of the Netherlands, which I remember before COVID, I was paying around 100 euros. And this year, I believe my insurance company raised prices to 148, which is, for some people, might not be a big amount. However,
in comparison with the United States, where I did the last couple of videos, 148, 150 or so in that region is a normal insurance payment.
However, I do think that is pretty good amount to be taken from your bank account every month, especially if you're somebody who doesn't go to a doctor on a monthly basis. I study nutrition and I want to become a nutritionist to help people deal with their health problems. So most of the time I do not go to doctors. I go to nutritionists, which I need to pay out of my pocket. and all the supplements that I need to take are out of my pocket. So I am kind of wasting money on health insurance every month. That said, there is
Yeah, that's your choice. But if you, like I said, if you want to have a blood test, go to the doctor. It's been paid for. And if something terrible happened to you, I do not hope there will be, but then it's fully paid for inside and outside the country.
a silver lining. If you need a medical emergency, then the insurance will be able to cover all of your costs. If you have something serious like a surgery, for example, the first, I think around 385 euros or 400, you need to pay out of your pocket.
Yeah, that's the we talked about it yesterday. Not out of pocket, but your damn out of pocket. No, she has thought it's yeah the part. Let's say it's out of pocket, but it's called different in the United States. We talked about it yesterday. Something like this. Got it. Had to look it up. Deductible. Yeah. So it's the deductible that she has a deductible of 385, which means that she has to pay less in her monthly premiums to the healthcare.
Rest is covered by insurance. For example, if you have a surgery that costs 600 euros, you do pay the first 400 euros and then 200 is covered by the health insurance, which is like you're still paying the most of it.
Yeah, but if you have a surgery, those 400 of your deductibles do not come out of your pocket. Those out of pockets are costs that you're making before anything else, like drugs that you need that's not inside your basic package. So,
but if your surgery costs 15,000, 20,000, you still pay 400 euros and then the rest is covered by insurance, which is really great. So I do appreciate this aspect of the system. It got pretty dark outside, so I decided to turn the lights on, and I'll continue with the next reason, which is housing costs and availability. Many houses in the Netherlands are quite old and in a bad condition. The rent prices are sky high.
The rent prices are sky high. Yeah, they are. And she went to Leeuwarden to build in Utrecht. Yeah, Amsterdam is very priced. It's a high price. It's the highest price you can find. But Utrecht and the build should not be. But rent prices
and in a bad condition. The rent prices are sky high. I used to work for a couple of tech companies and my salary was pretty decent. However, I could not afford to live on my own. I used to live with roommates, and living with roommates is nice and fun, but you get to the point when you feel like you want your own space, but you cannot afford it. I think if living alone was really a priority number one for me, I could find the money to pay for it. However, for me it meant cutting back on other things like traveling, which I love so much, hobbies and education and going out, for example. It meant that I would need to cut on all of these things to be able to afford a house and stay at home, I guess. The Netherlands is also overpopulated, which makes it very difficult to find housing.
And that's why the rent prices are up. Yeah. Keep in mind, rent prices can be between 800-900 euros up to 1,500-1,600 for an unfurnished apartment.
I'm not saying it's impossible. However, it feels like it's getting more and more difficult. And I remember there was even time, probably like 3 years ago, my roommate was the one who told me about it, that apparently new students who moved to the Netherlands in September to start school, they were living in tents because they just simply could not find housing.
Yeah, that's why the current culture and the current politics in the Netherlands is making it as in we don't have housing for our own people. Extreme right is now in power for our own people, so we don't want expat students from any country coming to our country and take our quote quote living spaces. Yeah.
which is crazy. Reason number 4 is the language. If a Dutch person is watching this video, please don't hate me for
I won't.
this. Nothing personal, please don't get offended. It's not like my native language is the prettiest one, but I am not a big fan of the Dutch language. I reached an A2 level. I would say definitely B1
That's
at
B1.
some point. However, I
Back up.
is the language. If a Dutch person is watching this video, please don't hate me for this. Nothing personal, please don't get offended. It's not like my native language is the prettiest one, but I am not a big fan.
I don't know, sure, but Belarus, like white Russia, as we call it in the Netherlands, Belarus is, I guess, Russian. So that's also a hard language to learn. So, but it sounds very good, although I don't know how it sounds like exactly, but it sounds nice.
Of the Dutch language. I reached an A2 level. I would say definitely B1 at some point. However, I just simply could not practice.
B1 is reasonable to do. Your level B1 would be perfect.
So my Dutch language skills just kind of vanished, to be honest.
If you don't speak it enough, yes, it will.
I am not able to speak it anymore. Not like at all,
Oh, that's a shame.
but I'll probably be very bad at it right now if you try to communicate in Dutch with me. Saying that, if I read Dutch or hear Dutch, I'll probably understand around 70%, 80% of the conversation. But when it comes to speaking, the problem in the Netherlands is that around 98% of the population speaks really good English. And so the moment they hear you have an accent, they switch to English.
Yes, we do.
And I remember there were a couple of times, not just once, I had moments when I would say something to a person in Dutch and they were a Dutch speaker. And I would say something to them in Dutch and they would reply in English and I'd be like, maybe they were not sure. And so I would reply, they say something again in Dutch. They would reply in English. And to be honest, I kind of gave up. The 5th reason...
Tell them that you need to learn the language, then they will. But we will switch. If I met a German outside, I live in the tri-area region with Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands. If I met a German somewhere in my region, he asked me something in English or in German, I will switch automatically to German because I can also speak German. I speak English, I speak German, I speak French. So we switch to the language that we hear. But if, like another girlfriend of mine who came from Czechia, she wants to learn Dutch, we forced her to speak Dutch everywhere with me, with my friends, with the club she was shooting at. Now she is speaking good Dutch because you need to force that. And if you ask Dutch people to speak Dutch with you so you can learn better Dutch, they will. Absolutely, they will.
Is food and culture, and don't get me wrong, I love patat. I honestly love it so much. But beyond that, stamppot? No. The Netherlands doesn't have a strong food culture compared to countries like Mexico or Brazil or Japan or China or even other European countries like Italy and France, for example. My husband is Mexican, so I've been spoiled with Mexican food.
Yeah, okay.
And it sure makes me happy on a cloudy day, but it's not like that in the Netherlands, and I just wish there was more food culture, but unfortunately...
Yeah, the food culture, the main cast, and even patat, French fries, are what it's called French fries. So it's mostly the culture from the Belgian what came over to the Netherlands, but the Netherlands is famous for its stamppot with carrots, stamppot with cabbage, stamppot with, yeah, mashed potatoes with carrots, mashed potatoes with cabbage mashed potatoes with. Yeah.
It just wasn't my experience. And finally, I'm gonna finish with more of a personal reason. So I'm not sure if anybody would be able to relate to this. As a teenager, I accepted an opportunity from my parents to study and live in Europe, which at that time I thought was something I wanted. However, there was another place I was dreaming about and a place where I wanted to be, where I wanted to live. Unfortunately, I had very difficult emotional relationship with my parents, so I could never really raise my voice and kind of tell them, look, I'm here and this is what I want.
Oh, yeah. Is that because of, I guess, religion related?
So I just ended up taking the opportunity that they gave me and accepted a choice of the country they made for me. For all 10
They made the choice for you. If you want to leave, then you have to go to the Netherlands. Okay.
years that I lived in the Netherlands, I couldn't shake that dream. So I do have a lot of regrets. The regret of wasting my time there and not pursuing my dream sooner.
Yes, I understand. But you're doing it now, and that's important. Follow your dreams.
Created a lot of anger toward the Netherlands, toward my parents, and toward even myself. And I'm gonna close off with saying that I know I've been pretty negative in this video. I don't want to offend anybody. I just wanted to share my personal experience.
No offense taken. I wonder, where do you go to from the Netherlands if you're not going back to Belarus? What's your next goal?
And the reason why I wanted to leave the Netherlands. Despite everything I mentioned, I'm incredibly grateful for my time in the Netherlands. I achieved a lot there, made lifelong friends, and grew so much as a person. I met some of my best friends there, had meaningful
And your husband, if I'm correct.
relationships, and learned so much about myself. The Netherlands is a beautiful country with its own charm.
Thank you.
It just wasn't the right fit for me. I also want to give some credit. Arranging visas in the Netherlands is relatively straightforward in comparison with other countries, and I love how easy it can be to arrange things online without needing to call anybody, especially for people who hate calling. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching this video. Bye bye.
Thank you for sharing this video and sharing this part of your life. Yeah. Wow. Intense. And whatever she said, all those reasons are good reasons for her to do so. So I wish her all the best. I wonder where she's going to. But yeah, if you come to the Netherlands, those are the things you need to keep in mind about the Netherlands. Do diligence with your research before you come to the Netherlands or come to Europe, because it's general in Europe. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like. If you want to see more videos, subscribe, and we will see each other in the next video.